interesting. I turned on the captions and I can actually read what you're saying, even though I cannot hear you. You just said all good, which is the first time I've actually seen something you say.
All good now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I don't know what Linda has exactly told about me to you. And how much do you remember out of all of that? So, I guess let me just give you a brief introduction. So, currently I'm doing my Bachelor's of Information Engineering from University of Padua in Italy. I've been into this concept of computer science from class 8th only, like from very long. Then I narrowed down my interest to AI, and then I narrowed down my interest to AI safety, and then I narrowed down my interest to AI alignment, and then now I'm at the narrowing down point of AI alignment with ethics. I talked to Linda and I told her how my approach is like a bit different with respect to making artificial wisdom that will have ethics as an emergent quality and not planning to or forcing ethics on machines itself. And when I told her a bit more about it, how like my approach is a bit stoic and how I want machine themselves to discover their own ethics, then she referred me to you because she said that you are also working on the same topic, but from a different angle.
I mean, my approach is kind of similar. One thing that I do different from most other alignment people is, in most cases, alignment people view machines as tools, basically, that you can just program stuff and basically have a morality add-on, which I don't think works. Morality is embedded into like real life interactions, basically. It is a real concept. This is a socially constructed concept, all right, but it is a real concept. It's not something that you can just basically add onto a machine. So on account of that, I think we agree. I don't know what Linda told you about me, so let me just say a few words about myself. I finished my PhD in 2017. My background is in education, moral education. And after that, I became very much interested in morality. So my actual focus is morality rather than alignments or AI ethics or something like that. I'm just very much interested in machine ethics and alignments because that is the most interesting question you can explore with regards to morality. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. To get very technical and very narrow about it, it's called Neo-Aristotelian naturalistic virtue ethics. This is basically the most popular reading of virtue ethics in the moral education community right now. And that draws a lot from moral psychology. To put it in more maybe computable language, you might say operating at peak functionality at all times, basically. That's how you might actually define eudaimonia. And so like my educational stuff kind of revolved around that as well. And right now I'm still kind of very interested in different ways of applying virtue ethics to machine ethics concepts. One thing that I'm kind of seeing parallels, for example, is in virtue ethics, once again, drawing from ancient Greek terminology, ancient Greek language, there are three concepts that are quite important. One is teleology, telos. That means your end, which basically means that is your goal, that is your aim, what you're trying to achieve. In the broader sense, you might say that is eudaimonia, but then you can actually narrow that down to specific tasks as well. And then next underneath that is agon, which was like ergonomical come from, and that's basically function. So how are you functioning within the context of a certain aim? Of a certain target. And then next to that, you have the concept of arete, which is translated as virtue into English generally, but a better translation for that is unexcellence, basically. Unexcellence in behavior, unexcellence in disposition, psychologically speaking. So for example, in one of the things that we used to talk about in the context of education is when you are trying to foster an excellent emotional disposition, or morally excellent emotional disposition in a child, what you're basically trying to do is get the students to feel compelled to be honest, basically. Get the students to feel compassion. And I'm kind of interested in ways of kind of translating this into machine ethics, basically. And there are certain parallels at different levels of abstraction between, like, how you can approach morality and moral behavior in humans and how you can approach them in machines. But you also need to keep a very clear eye about how machines and humans are very different as well, because like we are social beings, yeah. So whereas a machine isn't, we die. We literally die if there aren't any other people around, basically, unless you're like some wacky hermit up a mountain sort of thing. If we don't have social interaction, that causes depression, etc., etc. So we are obligate social beings, whereas a machine isn't, for example. And like we need to understand that before we start talking about the natural morality for machines, basically. Wisdom is an important concept in virtue ethics. That's why I went into that. On account of that, philosophically, if you're interested in wisdom, definitely go into the virtue ethics literature.
One of the point that is mostly in talk with me is what actually I mean by wisdom. People like get it very hard, similar to words like intelligence and all. So again, similar to how we define intelligence differently in different contexts, wisdom is also similar. Like if we talk about in the terms of machine and all, then we can say, or I can say that wisdom is something that is useful for machines to get aligned with humans, the main alignment problem. Wisdom is something that has ethics as an emergent quality. That is also wisdom. Wisdom is something that that evolution used in a way for humans to develop their own ethics. So like these are the different definitions of wisdom that I use in general.
Phronesis is once again a Greek word, and it literally means practical wisdom, and that basically boils down to like your wisdom regarding know-how about how to act morally and achieve good, basically. But one of the troubles that I find here is because everybody in alignment is so much interested in consequentialism and utilitarianism in particular, and because of that, there is so little work on virtue ethics, which draws from stuff like concepts of wisdom, which are which have been people have been elaborating on for like 2,000 years. There's a very rich history of it. But none of this has been in any way applied to the case of the machines because the concepts are way too complex. They are incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And people are generally trying to just like implement, like the reason I think people are going the way of consequentialism is because it's easier to implement.
Yeah.
But the result of that is that
the problems of hallucination at this moment that we have, it is majorly because of this only. They are just wanting output and not thinking about the process that well.
Yeah.
I call it like non-output based processing, NOBP, like one of the fundamentals that we need to have for wisdom.
I agree with that. One of the troubles of trying to get this work done is that terms do not translate well from one discipline to the other.
Yeah.
So there's what they call an epistemological translation that needs to happen. I am not aware of anybody who was actually trying to do that. I would love to be able to do that, but I generally do not have the time or the energy to do that. But that is something that I'm definitely interested in. Two things here. One, on account of that, going forward with this, you are likely to find a lack of people who can support you. And a lack of reading that you can actually do. But two, that also means if you are able to sink proper time into this, there is an incredibly wide gap to actually contribute to. This can easily make a PhD if you're kind of interested in going down the academic path. This could very easily make a PhD, basically.
Yeah, this is what I'm actually trying to do as well.
But you might find it difficult to actually find a supervisor that's actually willing to supervise that sort of a research topic, by the way. Probably, if you are interested in this, you will probably need to chart your own way forward, which is not an easy thing to do.
Understandable.
Because this space doesn't really exist, because it's not a thing that people are looking for, it's kind of really hard to find either jobs or funding that's actually going to help you do this and feed yourself at the same time.
But doing it in part-time is also not very feasible because it takes a lot of energy and mind to think philosophically and work technically. So
I think I will be able to do it part-time, but that is because I have already done a PhD, so I know how it is to do something at that level.
Yeah.
And I have already done a heck ton of reading on this stuff, so I already know which way I'm going to go. But I understand in your case it would be much harder, basically.
Yeah. And also another problem is at this moment, I have not been trained about the like expression, the soft skill part of research. I know only how to think and how to work. So recently, when I've been talking to a lot of people, like EAGX meetings and all, I'm getting familiar to this thing that I need to learn a lot of soft skills for research.
Yeah, I mean, there's always time to kind of work on those skills as well. Like everything isn't going to happen all at the same time, one thing at a time.
Yeah. But it is very like at this moment I just anyhow study my coursework that I have in my college, and then I like devote most of my time in thinking and writing about these things. Like the recent concept that I have worked on, like of realization, real chatron, how can make machine simulation. It took a whole lot of time because I think in a form of momentum, like thinking, then I have to stop all that thinking and do my coursework thing, like my exams and all. And then I have to again pick up on my thinking and my momentum, and then again have to pick. So this momentum loss is causing even more problem than thinking continuously. So it is very hard to do it along my coursework because my coursework seems to be completely irrelevant. We are studying about electric circuits and all not that I have no use at this moment. We had one courses on machine learning that was useful, but except that like 80% is useless for me at this moment. So I'm very much desperate to get something good for my masters or directly to go for a PhD or something, or just directly go into this field of research anyhow because I don't want to again waste my time. I already don't have much. So, but I cannot find any opportunity as well at this moment. I'm just trying to work on my own independently.
One thing that I will suggest to you for your sanity is don't expect to be able to find something that's actually going to let you work on this stuff. What I did recently is I dropped out of my teaching at university.
Okay.
I was in the psychology department at the University of Exeter, and I let my contract run out so that I would be able to kind of devote about 6 months to actually get the ball rolling. I have a few paper drafts, like hopefully get them, hopefully get a few drafts submitted, sort of a thing, and then do a heck ton of networking. To do that, I moved back to Oxford because there are quite a few centres here that are working on adjacent things. So for your sanity, what I would say is because this kind of hurt me a lot, if you're hoping to find some space where you can actually work on this, be prepared to be disappointed again and again.
I've been a lot disappointed recently. So what should I do? Like, what I should stop researching or I should stop living?
Keep doing what you're doing right now. Do what you need to do, and then do this on top of that. And once you have built enough, working on it on the side, this is gonna take years, maybe 5 years, something like that. A month ago, there was this very interesting job at Oxford University, Uehiro Center for Practical Ethics. And they were looking into consciousness and moral psychology in robots. That was really interesting, but that's Oxford University. It is so insanely fucking competitive. And even after you get in there, all of my friends that are in Oxford University say that Oxford University is a toxic environment. So maybe you really don't want to work there. So, like, even if when jobs like this go around, they tend to be insanely competitive in, like, top places in the world. And because they're in those institutions also tend to be, like, because of the level of competitiveness, it will fray on your nerves, basically. It will stress you out quite a bit. Unless you get very lucky and find someone to actually provide the sort of space that you're looking for, it is very highly likely that you will need to create your own space for this. So keep that in mind. Keep building this on the side, basically. That's what I would suggest to you.
Okay.
You may also be able to find a PhD as well. A PhD is a good opportunity to do that. But I didn't do my PhD in a funded way, so I'm not sure how the PhD funding thing actually works. I might actually take a PhD myself, actually. Get one in either philosophy or computer science.
Okay. So I have heard from Linda only that in UK and in some other countries it is allowed to do PhD just after bachelor's, and we are not actually required to do masters. Is it so? Like, is there any rule like that?
I think that does exist. I think like having a master's definitely makes it easier.
Okay.
But it might not be necessary. You said
she said
you're about to turn 24.
she told me that if you have good enough amount of projects and thoughts and original work on the topic, then you can get into that. And when I talked about like my DSW, my CQE, then she was like, you might have success, but I don't know where to apply and how to proceed with that, or whom to contact for that. Pure philosophy course, like some philosophy of masters and all. And I talked to some people. I also studied philosophy for a month in a summer camp. But what I'm getting mostly from people out there is all of the like fundamental like understanding and essence of those knowledge of philosophy and realizations. I have already enough of them, and based on which I write my projects. But I just lack mostly the knowledge of different terms and language and way to put things. Like this concept is called this. I know the concept. This kind of thing happened with human, but I don't know that people call it this thing. So this happens with me a lot.
I had this impression of how the world works, and I thought it was a really powerful way of understanding it. And I was kind of thinking, like, guys, you really need to hear about this for like 5 years. And then I found out that there's this whole thing called systems theory and complex systems science that actually talks about this stuff.
Yeah. It has happened with me. I cannot, like, uncountable times, from like topics of physics to math. It already happens with me. But now things that I'm working on, like real shit on, that basically deals with the Chinese room experiment kind of problems, and how can machines have actual knowledge of what they're doing, what they're talking about, the Jan LeCun problem. Like on that topic, I have worked enough. I have also written some equations kind of things, and those are like very novel. I have not seen anywhere mention of those things. So I think that those can be a new thing, because it took me like way too long to write them. Like currently, I'm working on this concept of theory of mind, like artificial theory of mind, so that we can have this concept of abstraction, like good amount of abstraction from machine. I talked about this interpretive view as well. So I'm doing this kind of work at the same time, but I really don't know where to show these works of mine to get them evaluated and to get valued for them, like to get a research position as a PhD or something else.
In terms of PhD, I'm not entirely sure, but I have never supervised a PhD student, so what that basically means is that I do not know how the admission systems work in the UK. That's what that means. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think you can get away without doing a master's. But nevertheless, one thing I will tell you is to think clearly about when and how you want to do a PhD. I started mine when I was 22. It was a bad idea. I finished it when I was 26. You may genuinely consider, instead of directly rushing into a PhD, take a year off, get some experience elsewhere. Academia has a very different value set for how the system as a culture kind of works compared to a company, basically, compared to a research lab. It makes a massive difference if the institution you're working for prioritizes profit versus prioritizes rigorous research.
Yeah, surely. Yeah, but with this, as I said, the problem is there is no proper institution that is working on this research of AI alignment. Interpretability is what we most work on. I already saw the stats, and in the call also when I saw, mostly are working on interpretability and robustness, kind of like short-term solutions. People just want short-term solutions.
Nobody's gonna work on that anytime soon. Like, let me put it this way: for roles related to that need to start coming up, people like you and I actually need to make a lot of noise before. So keep an eye out for possibilities.
Okay.
But I would be wildly surprised if you actually find something.
Okay, and except for this, like I have one other like a technical problem kind of thing. Whenever I talk about this thing of artificial wisdom, then one of my first statement is what I believe is wisdom is a whole different paradigm than intelligence. Similar to how humans have this aspect of being intellect, then similarly humans also have this other paradigm of wisdom. So we cannot just add wisdom or ethics as like a layer on intelligence or a plugin on intelligence. We need to build it up from starting, like how we build intelligence in a whole different way. So we need to make artificial wisdom and then combine it with artificial intelligence to make artificial wise machines, and those will be something that we need for alignment. But what I get mostly against this is, how can you say, like, what is the basis of this, that wisdom is a different aspect? And obviously I don't have anything like to refer to that this is based on this. I'm saying that it's a different paradigm. I've read about orthogonality thesis and how it talks about the concept of instrumental goal and terminal goal in different in different dimensions. And based on that, I can make some arguments for supporting my claim of that wisdom is a different aspect. And to work with terminal goal, we need different kind of skill sets or different things compared to what we need to work on instrumental goals, but still that does not seem to properly justify and suffice the statement of mine that wisdom is a different aspect as intelligence. So what would you say on that? Like, is wisdom a different aspect than intelligence, and how can we start approaching in building it in machines?
Not an easy question. I would definitely say that wisdom and intelligence are two different things. A weak positive relationship between a weak positive correlation between wisdom and intelligence.
And what I can see and sense is like the relation between intelligence and wisdom is merely a relation. It's not a causation thing. It's not like intelligence causes wisdom or wisdom causes intelligence. It's not causal relation. It's just correlation. So
definitely.
But still, I don't. Again, I have not read paper. I'm not good with citation, reference, and all. Again, not trained. So I don't know how. When I tell people, how do I like make this point?
Intelligence, like these are all different ways of organizing information in the context of certain aims and goals and certain values, which are very closely related to what those aims are. So like your terminal aim, your terminal goal is going to be directly related to something that is substantially valuable to you. Like staying alive. So you eat, so you work, so you go socialize, etc., etc. Some stuff actually organize everything in a really deep way. What wisdom is, you need to be able to define wisdom.
Yeah.
And to be able to define wisdom, you need, like what I would do is basically, if I were you, is read about different definitions of wisdom. Virtue ethics is one place to start. Take different philosophical accounts of it. How do different people define wisdom? And then eventually you're going to see that there is no good definition for wisdom, and you're going to choose one that is working for your aims and goals.
Yeah.
So in the context of machine intelligence, you may find that, like, to understand what sort of considerations go into definitions of wisdom and how deep those go. And once you kind of start getting a clearer idea about that, and like this isn't just a week's reading, like this is at least 6 months of like dedicated reading sort of a thing. That's why I'm saying like keep working on this on the side. It's a long thing, it's a long project. If you want to do it in a way that is robust at least, because nobody else is working on this, there aren't any shortcuts. Like a lot of, like some trails need to be blazed, and that's why the work is hard and laborious. Virtue ethics has a very strong tradition of discussing what wisdom is and different types of wisdom. So that would also be a good place to start, I think.
Okay.
But it is a big project. Like it is a huge project. Like you can create an entire career out of working on this.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I'm going to advise you is don't expect to get anywhere anytime soon.
Like even a small progress would be the biggest reward for that moment, I guess. Like when I thought about this concept of artificial wisdom in the first place, that machines can have artificial wisdom, or when I thought about this concepts of like abstraction and all, NOBP and all, then that segment was only a very rewarding kind of moment for me. That okay, this can work out. So that kind of small doses of success is also great enough for me at this moment. But at like another great level would be someone also listening to them and appreciating them, or even affirming them, critiquing them, anything with them.
One thing I will advise you is work in a way that you can pick up later on if you have to stop working on it. I haven't figured out how to do this myself, apart from just reading out my old drafts and then trying to remember why I had said what I had said. But coming up with that system will overall be useful for you in everything, basically.
Yeah.
And in a large project like this, it would also be useful. When it comes to soft skills, you're going to need them anyhow. Whether you're doing a PhD or working at a company or doing some other working at a research lab sort of a thing, you're going to need them either way. So you will develop them in parallel with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
All of these different skills develop all at the same time. And as time passes, because so a soft skill is basically, you need to communicate clearly. So you need to write a good piece of written work, yeah? So you need to understand how language works, basically, and how people communicate over writing. But if you're doing some piece of research, and you need to write a lab report, well, you're going to end up writing something in any case. And if your writing isn't very clear, you will have been getting low marks. Like, clear writing isn't as important in computer science as it is in psychology or education.
Yeah.
The more social and humanities you go, the better your writing needs to become. So my writing is generally clear.
Yeah. The problem with me at this moment is the course that I did of philosophy, in that I had to write some answers. And when it comes to writing things of that level, I can write good enough. Like, I got good enough appreciation from a professor and good enough marks as well. But when it comes to write things that I have been thinking about and working on from long, then that becomes a bigger task for me, because it's like a lot of thoughts compressed in a very short amount of words and sentences and all. So to extract that is a big thing.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
So that kind of level of compression I do with my thinking, because if I also think in that compressed form, like in very few amount of words, in a very that graphical manner, in graph format. So when it comes to writing, then all of my writing skills that I have gained, and then people like appreciate also, I have also made some money using my writing skills, all of that go to sync, because the amount of thoughts and the amount of like thinking that I have is way too large than my language. So no more, like, I have to work on my language way too much to even get close by to my level of thought.
There are two main reasons that it's really hard to actually compress stuff. One, the idea is too big. It cannot be compressed to that level. So that is one thing. The second thing is you generally don't have the language to write about stuff. Finding about complex systems theory and learning and reading about that has given me an incredible wealth of terminology that I can use. That actually makes stuff much more easier, because then if you have defined terms, it becomes much easier to use those terms instead of trying to explain everything, coming up with a new theory for every little thing that goes into the theory. So one, read widely. Two, what I would do in my own time, and what I'm trying to do in my own time, is write everything. So I can see how different pieces actually fit to each other, and then start picking out different lines of arguments within any piece of it, which helps you to narrow down. Once your idea is narrower, then it becomes easier to actually explain it. And you can't see everything all at the same time. So using something like this can help you organize your thinking, basically. And through that, you might be able to kind of start seeing where your gaps are, and start seeing where your compressible arguments are, basically. Yeah.
The thing with this is I call it overclocking mode in my mind. Like, I can make graph like this in my mind only. Like, I can visualize. I can just close my mind. I can see like this. I can move pieces in my mind. I did not know it is called synesthesia. Like, I was talking to a person recently. He told me that he also is trying to do something like this. He's training himself, and it is some synesthesia skill, but I have developed it on my own. The problem it becomes is when I have a lot of notes and all, and I have already made the connections. I can see the thing, how it works. Like, most of the things are very implicit to me. How will this link to this point? But when it comes to writing, I cannot just write that this will link to this, and because the reasoning is way too deep, that if I just start digging in the reasonings, the thing will become way too long, and also it becomes very much messy to write. I'll try this, like, keep on writing my thoughts at every moment, so in that moment I can just add and do something like that. I've been trying to do this now, using Google Notes and all. So I'll see what to do of this at this moment. And thank you for the call. I hope we talk sometime soon as well, after reading the things that you sent me.
Okay. I'll probably get back to you sometime soonish.
Sure. Thank
I'm
you.
interested in this as well.
Sure. Thank you for this call as well. Bye.
All right. Cool. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
ये सब क्या आदत है मेरा यार, हाथ से बाय करने का.